Good morning. I thought that we're a little better
You paused so long. I was like, she's not going to
because
say
I
it.
said at this point, F it. You know what I mean? It's raining outside. It's a dreary
It's
Monday.
raining here too.
You know, we had we're kicking off with a happy birthday. This is the day to say happy birthday to
Thank
both of
you.
us.
It is. It's our shared birthday.
Yes, March 24th, the week of the diva, is a mutual birthday between Stephanie and myself. You're the 23rd, I'm the 25th. So
Happy
just
birthday.
wish us both a happy birthday today.
Yay.
But I was just like, oh, F it, we're not going to be in sync today. So I'll just say it when I feel like saying it. Well, good morning to everybody. Today is March 24th, 2025. And I am Julesy, and this is
Allegedly Stephanie. And we are allegedly here in this
with
dreary
news
ass weather.
with levity, as we've been trying. We break down the US news every Monday and Thursday morning. And today we are going to be talking about administrative warfare. That's a post-structuralist argument. Shout out to Foucault. Shout out to Warwick Anderson. Yeah, we're going to talk about the administrative warfare tactics of Donald Trump that have happened over the last week and the institutions that are kneeling to the king.
He's been very successful in this strategy, and that is raising my blood pressure, making me more angry.
Really?
Yeah, because most of these institutions, I'm like, you have the money to fight this. They just don't want to.
But these are like institutions of capitalism, of like ultra late stage capitalism, invested in the state, invested in the elite. I'm like I understand that they have the means, the power, and the financial and the litigator, the
They have the
jurisprudence.
willpower. There's some lawyers
Yeah,
in there excited to argue.
not even the willpower, but they have the legalese to
They do.
go against Trump, and they are just being like, no, I'm going to protect my bottom line and do what he says and do what he wants. Because these were never institutions of ethics, though. These were never
Definitely.
like institutions.
Definitely.
Do you? Well, I know you're not on TikTok, but that Priscilla girl, you know her in real life?
No.
There's a black woman lawyer.
I'm familiar with her.
You missed the
I
whole
don't know
little
her name.
TikTok drama that popped up. Like, well,
I didn't know. I didn't
Here's
miss
the
that.
levity.
My friend sent it to me.
Oh,
and I was
look
I have
at you
thoughts on
on the
that,
social
actually.
media.
I have thoughts on that because when you are a new grad and a recent lawyer, there's always too much dip on your chips. I remember being 25, past the bar the first time and being like, I'm the shiniest thing on Park Avenue. I know everything. And it was fascinating that unnecessary argument that aspiring influencer, who also is a big law attorney, decided to throw for no reason.
So, for
It was fascinating.
context, we're not going to play the video, but there was a young
Or
lady
no, it's unnecessary.
who is a recent Howard Law graduate, and she very much so like the aesthetics. Like, you know, there's always like the optics that feed into how you receive the messaging. Because I saw the video and I was like, okay, like this doesn't have to go anywhere. But there was a black, but it's always the comments. I will tell you, anytime like
It was
drama,
her liking the comment and then blocking Priscilla, which I was like, I knew it was in a mean spirit that you said.
Yes, because the video itself wasn't too bad, but she was in the comments liking comments about specific creators. So a young black woman who's a recent Howard Law graduate got on TikTok and basically gave the warning that if you want to work in big law, you can't also be an influencer.
Big law. Go
ahead, define
Big Law is the top 100 law firms in the United States. I think it changes with inflation. I believe starting salary in Big Law now is $200,000. So 25-year-old making $200,000, it is an obscene amount of money. You also work an obscene amount of hours, on average 70 to 80 hours a week. It is very homogenous, extremely white. Less than 3% of lawyers in Big Law are black. Her premise that like, hey, you're going to ruin your Big Law opportunity, I thought was really interesting. Most law students in general, regardless of your background, are not going to Big Law. Big Law cannot employ everyone. Probably less than 10% of attorneys end up in Big Law. And then primarily most black attorneys do not end up in Big Law. It's a very hostile environment. The average tenure of a black attorney in Big Law is 18 months. They don't last more than a year. I have a few friends that have made it to their 5th and 6th year, but out of all of my colleagues, most of them quit. There are very few Black partners in Big Law because it is so hostile. So it was very interesting, her tone, as if there's like this huge cohort of like young Black women getting on TikTok while also being in Big Law. I was like, this is not even like a real problem.
And so the thing is, there's really only like
Right.
2 or 3 content creators.
It was
So
very
she,
specific.
so she made this point and was like, yeah, if you want to work in Big Law, especially as a new grad, you cannot also be a content creator. And so, because there are only like 2 or 3 women who, Black women specifically, who have become content creators who work in Big Law, and they both have left Big Law for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the comments liking comments about them. Now, Priscilla, I believe it's Priscilla. She's Panamanian, Dominican. She's Dominican,
I think
maybe.
Panamanian, maybe. I can't remember which one. Maybe Panamanian. One of those.
Anywho, her name
Afro
is like,
Latino. She's Afro Latino.
she's Afro Latino. She's
Dark skin Afro Latino.
legally, and then she has whatchamacallit, alopecia. She's legally Priscilla on TikTok. I believe that's her handle. She did a video in her legalese because she was like,
She cracks me up. I love her.
yeah,
Laugh.
she was like,
I love her
she's like, she was saying in response to the video, she said, you did this video, you were referencing myself and one other person because you were in the comments liking comments about me, and then you blocked me. And that she used a term, not discrimination, defamatory.
It was libel. That it was libel and defamatory. Yeah.
Yeah, that you were then making
Right.
defamatory statements about me. So now I am going to address you, was sort of Priscilla's approach. And Priscilla was right in saying she did not leave Big Law because she was fired. She left Big Law because, as you're saying, she did not like the work she was doing. She worked until she reached a certain goal, and now she is working on the defense side for a nonprofit. I think she is like technically some form of like public defender, but through a privately funded nonprofit, not through the public defender's office in New York.
And one thing that we didn't say, the original commenter basically stated, if you have TikTok and you work in Big Law as a Black woman, it is your fault that you're getting fired. So she insinuated that Priscilla was fired, which that did not occur. That is not what happened.
There's Any Given Sunday.
Oh, great fashions.
Yes.
I love just looking through her closet.
You know what? I originally did not follow any because I was like, I don't have the pockets for this.
Oh, I don't follow. I just let her pop
and
up.
she
when
loves
people
some
said it.
Andrea Yamaya. I was like, because this weekend she's like in Dubai, and I'm like, this is so Stephanie coded. I'm not gonna send it to Stephanie. I'm not gonna. Yeah, because she got a wedding this year. I can't send this to Stephanie.
I like all the things when they come across, but yeah, for that reason, I stick to that. Like, I'm like, oh, if I can't.
I went ahead.
It's causing me to spend. I don't actively follow, but I support everything. But if I follow, then child, we're spending money.
I went ahead and followed because I realized, and she's gotten skinnier, straight sizes. So I go to the brands. I can't even buy it. First of all, the body don't come with the outfit, and the size ain't for me. So I could follow, I could like, and say, ooh. I can't buy it anyway because it don't even come in my size. The girls love a Zimmerman dress. Zimmerman doesn't go over size 10. So many of the like high-end brands don't go over size 10.
I really in that fabric.
I really want a Christopher John Rogers like sweater color block dress, and he does. Well, he goes up to double XL, I think.
But I feel like we could find him maybe if we like search through resale.
I've been searching. Because I'm like, you know what? I don't have to buy from the fashion houses. I can buy resale. But the not the big girls, but like the people that are my size are holding on to their Christopher John Rogers. They're not selling it. Or maybe once it hits the market, it goes really fast. I've been searching for like 2 years at this point.
I haven't looked yet. It's on my board of wish lists.
They only have small and mediums available on like the Real. And that's how I ended up finding Stod. But Stod is like 100% poly. We talk about this all the time. It's 100% polyester.
It's
100% polyester. It's a cute design, but it's polyester.
No, I'm trying to move away from the polyester because if you ever feel like, oh my god, like am I getting like early onset menopause? I'm so hot. You're probably not. It's probably because you're wearing the polyester will make you hot. Like you will overheat.
It's
for the
hard to
fabric.
clean. It holds in body heat. Like my mom bought pajamas for my son, and there were two sets of 100% polyester. I had her return them.
Nah.
I'm like on it, like because of fast fashion, especially it. I know people buy a lot of fast fashion for their kids because kids tear up clothes and go
Mhm.
through kids clothes so fast. But I've tried to be more aware of like polyester clothing. It holds smell. It heats the body up. My kid already runs hot, so we try not. We try to stay away from the 100% polyester clothing. But that's
That's rough.
upsetting when you like really do try to go to like, because a lot of brands do recreate the designs of the fashion houses, but the materials. That's why people be like, "Oh, you're so cottage core." No, Selkie just sells 100% cotton
They
gowns.
do?
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look at them. I like their prints. I'm just
and
too short for like a that
oh,
style.
they have a whole wedding line. You should look at
Let's
it
look. Let's look.
for like
I'm
a
looking.
reception, like a rehearsal dress or something. My assistant, because I put her on a Selkie, wore for her after party wore a Selkie puff. It looked really good on her. But they have different cuts of gowns that are in
Mhm.
cotton, and I, for the most part, I own like two organza dresses, but everything else I own from them, well, no, I actually own three or four organza dresses, but I own a lot of their cotton stuff. Yes, and they're
Yeah.
always running a sale, and I like that once you figure out their sizing chart, you figured out their sizing chart.
It
Unlike
doesn't change.
Hanifa.
Speaking of which, she's having a new line in 2 weeks. I signed up for the email,
Yes,
but I'm not gonna buy it. I'm gonna wait
and
till it's on sale. But I like to peruse.
see, because you small, because she
Hmm.
go up to a 3XL and it don't be on the sale. It be extra small, and small that be
The
available with
sizing there,
Hanifa.
you gotta test.
And
Yeah.
this, you have to. The problem with Hanifa is I need to see it on somebody. And
Mm.
there's a particular influencer who I thought was plus size, but she was recently at a Houston rodeo event sponsor, and
Ooh.
they had her in a video, and I was like, mm, I think you present as plus size.
There's
Maybe,
not a lot of range in the plus size models. And I think that's something you've rightfully pointed out, where they're still like modeling
yeah. Maybe she's
conventional, like
lost some
hourglass
weight
figures.
recently, and that's what it is. But she also wears a lot of straight sizes. I will look up stuff she has on and be
Mhm.
like, it's a large.
Which is
Is it just a lot of
Mm.
stretch?
Some of these places do like if there's lycra in it, there's a lot of stretch. Like
Mm.
I like a lycra blend because it's a stretch and will suck you in.
Like when I see my plus size girlies in House of CB, I'm just like, oh, they don't go past a size 12.
It's probably lycra in there
Mm.
or spandex. Some of
Okay.
the old ones have straight up spandex.
Well, let's get
I
into
forgot
the.
why were we even talking about
We,
the
you
lawyer
know what I mean?
TikTok?
Because we're loquacious ass bitches and it's our birthday.
I was
Go
like, wait,
with
how
the
did we get over there?
flow.
to
Thank
to close
you.
that point out, which was Priscilla and Annie were right. I loved Annie's response was to be like, anyways, I'm very blessed. And what about her business? And then Priscilla was like, no, someone needs to speak to you, and then addressed a video to the young lawyer. When you are a young lawyer, you are 25 years old, sense has just found you. You unfortunately will realize the legal field is extremely homogenous. If
Mm.
you haven't realized that at 25, give it a year of working in the legal field, particularly if you work in big law. Unfortunately, it's not going to be pleasant. I have yet to meet or know anyone that was like, this has been the most pleasant part of my life. I knew my mentor actually in big law when I was in law school, very nice white man. He used to tell me, and mind you, this is somebody who I would say objectively leans more towards empathetic and kind. He was like, oh, I always try and comfort the first year associates because they're consistently crying. However, what they don't know is that all of the senior associates and the partners take bets on who is crying behind the closed door. This is the type of work environment you in. So this is not a place of like currently right now a lot of big law is being attacked by the current administration under like you need to get rid of your DEI mandates. Big Law doesn't have DEI. They have like promises they like kind of made, but they don't implement. None of their numbers have ever shown, and this is not just in terms of race, but in terms of gender, less than 30% of Big Law partners are women of any race. Once you break it down into Black, Hispanic, and Asian, you're talking single digits. Nobody is in the double digits just for associates. It's not a place that cares to keep up with what the world wants. Like if we were going to wait on Brown versus Board of Education, if we had to wait on Big Law, we would still not have Brown versus Board of Education. Shout out to Thurgood Marshall and the Legal Defense Fund and the NAACP for bringing us that. Because Big Law was never going to give that to us.
Yeah, and we have Trump enacting administrative warfare through major institutions of power and elitism in our country. And it is kind of to me it's wonky to watch happen, because I do not expect these institutions to have ethics and morals that they are fighting for. I'm kind of unsurprised that Big Law is kowtowing to Trump. I have critiques of Columbia, but I am a little bit more surprised about Columbia University because of they have to acquiesce to and how much they are giving in, like switching around department chairs for Trump is crazy. But there's an argument to be made that modern warfare, especially once we get into the later half of the 20th century, does not happen through the violence and direct warfare that we are often educated on, like from the World Wars and from the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, where it was like pew-pews, bombs, whatever. But it has, since the Cold War, shifted more towards an administrative warfare. There's a book by Warwick Anderson, I believe it's Colonial Pathologies, which details Colonial Pathologies. It's a really dense book. You definitely have to be this was assigned in a class that I always reference on here. Okay, it was assigned in American history class, and my biggest gripe with the teacher is we read so much post-structuralism, but did not engage directly with Foucault's work. And I do feel like you have to read, at least you've had to have read. Michel Foucault has one book where he's critiquing historians, and it's kind of like the foundation of post-structuralism. I might be over-speaking here because, honestly, I haven't read a whole lot of post-structuralists other than Foucault and Judith Butler. But what book is it that I've read? The Archaeology of Knowledge. And his argument is that you have to, like, history is just, like, off at that point. When was that book written? In the 1960s, 1970s, right? That history up until that point was just told by like the great white men of like these great eras, and told us if everybody just fell in line, you know, like the American Revolution was between the British and what would become of the United States, the American colonies. And there was just two sides, and everybody fell in line with those sides, and they fought, and this side won, and that's how it went. And he's like, you have to question who even came up with those categorizations. In what environment and what time. It's like spatial temporal zoning, so time, place, surroundings, were these decisions made. And Colonial Pathologies takes that argument and like builds out this really dense argument about how the United States colonized Philippines through administrative warfare, through getting institutions, or rather creating institutions, particularly in public health, that made people acquiesce to a white American standard around cleanliness and morality. And then then they used this idea of leprosy to create a leprosy colony where they would banish Filipino people too and make a nationless person. But in the end, as labor needs and immigration expands in the United States, they create a Filipino at large who is sort of a nationless person, because the Philippines was considered a nation state and had particular immigration privileges into the United States, but still had a very hard path to citizenry. from the country that was like creating the circumstances where they needed to migrate from their country. Anyhow,
Interesting.
that is it. It wasn't very. It was. I was like, you so many fucking words to get to the point. This is definitely a book that I would gut and not read word for word, but it is a very salient argument that, you know, expanded how I look at the actions of American government within the United States and abroad.
I think a lot of, without having read the book and based off of your very eloquent synopsis of the book, I think it's interesting in that what a lot of first gen immigrants have been advocating for, and anybody of conscience that knows that America is one of the largest colonial forces the world has ever seen. Like, Britain gets rightfully the rap of the giant world colonizer. With the Queen famously saying the sun never sets on the British Empire, America is Britain 3.0. And one of the things that's currently happening now, and that anybody that cares about history has been pointing out, like, hey, what's going to happen in the United States is we are bringing fascism home. You're going to see imperialism, colonization, and fascism that the US has been exporting for hundreds of years. You're just going to see it here. And you're not used to seeing it here. What America has done to Haiti, you're going to see here. What America has done to Jamaica, what America has done to the Philippines. America now is currently trying to put multiple military bases in the Philippines, new ones. Their former Prime Minister Duarte is currently at The Hague, which has been very interesting because he's finally getting charges for the awful atrocities that he's rolled out. And so I think if we want to know, like, hey, where's this going? Like, what's about to happen? We just simply have to look at how America has treated basically all these other countries, and the writing is on the wall there. And I think that helps inform, like, okay, instead of like being apathetic and being like the law firms or being like Columbia University and being like, okay, I'm just going to accept it, it kind of can help influence, like, okay, how do we push back? What are areas of ways to push back? Because we, of course, in the United States, we have more rights than people who have been colonized by the United States. Like, when you have a colonial force that has 100 times more money than you, people have fought back. It's a lot harder versus we're here. We have significant more advantages to fighting back with the Trump administration. I think the worst thing that collectively we can do is accept it or delude ourselves into levels of, which sometimes, like, you need the escapism, like for the day, but months prolonged of escapism and just is a quiet version of accepting.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if we offered a definition for fascism. I think fascism and populism are words that we're going to hear a lot more if we have not already heard them a lot. And I don't know that people understand what they mean. Sometimes, you know, it's interesting because when you study the history of North Carolina, there was a populist farmers magazine. So populism isn't inherently bad, but I don't really know examples of populism that don't skew to the negative. And populism is this idea that you are fighting for the common man against a real or perceived elite status quo group of people or persons. And then fascism often, and that fascism is essentially what makes populism a negative, because it comes in and says, well, that common person represents the state and should be, their plight should be exalted over others. And then, you know, because slavery was slavery and the transatlantic slavery transformed the global world, there's always a racial lens to that often. Where the populism is particularly in America, and the fascism in America and Europe is always almost attuned to a particular brand of whiteness. As C. Van Woodward would say, white supremacy is not about the rights of all whites. It's about which whites reign supreme.
Ooh. We should tell that to the whites at large.
I mean, C. Van Woodward, a white man.
I think maybe people need to be reminded of that.
Here's the book you can read by C. Van Woodward. It's called The Strange Career of Jim Crow. Now, he did become The book is good, though. And Barbara Fields worked under C. Van Woodward. Am I lying? I might be lying. Don't give me the lying. Oh, C. Van Woodward. I don't know. Trump supporter might be. Did he? Is the man dead? I don't know. But he did endorse DeSouza.
Oh,
which was like, ooh, or was I? He died in 99. So,
99. So he's
yes, Trump.
pre Cheeto. I would say populism is always intertwined with like a grassroots movement, usually fighting for people that are disenfranchised. When AOC won her first representative election here in New York, people framed her election as a grassroots populist movement. So that could be an example of something positive. Fascism, though, is always negative. It takes the idea of like, oh yes, this is grassroots, it's for the people, and inherently you have to have a dictator in fascism. You are, to your point, looking at the rights and the wants of the few against the many, but under an identifier of, okay, we are all, insert whatever thing, we are all white, and we're not going to tell the other whites, but we, the 1% of the whites, we're going to rule over everyone, white and non-white, etc. So I think populists could be positive, but we don't have, to your point, a lot of examples of positive populist movements. And that actually would be a critique on the DNC, because if the DNC is the party of the working man and working people, then why doesn't the DNC have more small populist movements that are for working class people? But the DNC doesn't like criticism.
And now this reminds me, I did want to talk about AOC. Maybe if we have
her
time.
Current Bernie Sanders, maybe Senate run business.
Maybe can we talk about that real quick before we get into these law firms? So this is a response to TikTok, because I got serviced 2 videos on TikTok. One video was from, I don't know, she's not white, but she skews in that direction. I can't say it's a white presenting person. I don't know what her ethnicity is actually, but it wasn't a black woman. It was a woman of color, I'll say that, who was like, Bernie better not fucking run for president. And it had a lot of engagement. And I'm like, this man will be 87 years old in 2028. Right. Like, are we even going to get to a democratic process for the presidency 3 years out from now? We're 3 months in to a Trump presidency. 3 months in. Y'all are reacting to his town hall with AOC largely being looked at as a success. And not even because of that town hall are people talking about AOC running. They're talking about AOC running because, as we talked about last week, Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader, Democrat establishment leader,
from New York,
is on a book tour flailing with liberal media. He's losing it with liberal media because he is so wrapped up in his own Zionism. He is on a book tour about a book about anti-Semitism that, from what he's saying, seems to be really about his issue with the pro-Palestinian movement, talking about genocide is such an evil word. Israelis are not committing genocide, and I've been critical.
Doing genocide is evil.
Like the man, and it is CR vote. And he's just crashing out. He crashed out on MSNBC with Chris Hayes. You know how crazy it is for Jamel Bowie to get on TikTok and be like, this is the end of Chuck Schumer's career. Do you know how crazy it is for the man who often finds himself pushing for being objective with his own white wife to get on the internet? This is not some radical progressive.
I saw you in the comments of his segregation TikTok, which I did. We'll talk about the end.
We're actually mutuals on TikTok. He follows me back. I was like, baby, I be talking about the niggas with a white wife all the time. You the only one that get a pass from me. But I mean, I did too much. But I thought it was like it was something to see Jamel Bowie say, Chuck Schumer is losing it. I'm like, wow, I'm not just living in my own little bubble and vacuum over here with my little pro-Palestinian movement. No,
a lot of New Yorkers are tired of Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, like the man.
Like you are wasting your breath and our time with your own personal, at this point, unfortunate genocidal cause that you decide that you want to hang your hat on, and all of the other initiatives that could have been helpful to New Yorkers, such as Chuck Schumer has been the loudest advocate for student loan reform and student loan debt relief. He said, to hell with y'all. I know y'all asked for this. I'm over here supporting foolery because he wants to support foolery, and also he's one of the biggest beneficiaries of AIPAC.
AIPAC is so deep in that man's pockets that the fact that like the tide is changing on how we view Israel And honestly, I don't even think the tide is changing that greatly. I don't think that, like, culturally, Americans are truly more attuned to the Palestinian cause. I think people maybe just don't care. People are checking out, but politically, he's not the ease at which you could be pro-Palestinian or pro-Israel that no longer exists. And that small change, that small shift in the political climate has Chuck Schumer losing it. And so discourse about AOC, who was stymied by the Democrat establishment when she ran for that committee chair seat, and they gave it to an elder politician with cancer. I don't even remember what committee it was for.
Oh gosh. Did they give it to Diane?
No,
Before
Diane.
No,
Feisty day, girl.
I remember that happened. She signed something early in the day, and then at the night went on to glory. And I was like, Diane, this was wild behavior.
Yeah.
Here's
the news story. Sorry if any pop-ups pop up. You know what I mean? I haven't. There we got the ad blocker. We got the ad. I'll fix it next time. You right, girl. Gary Conley defeats AOC to become top Democrat on oversight committee. Democrats elected Representative Jerry Conley of Virginia to serve as a top Democrat to the House Oversight Committee, rejecting a push by some members to tap a younger generation of lawmakers to lead the party on top panels. Connolly, 74, with cancer, defeated 35-year-old Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to become the ranking member of the powerful committee.
We need age limits. The retirement age is 72. The retirement age, most people unfortunately will have to work past it because we don't have Social Security yet. But the retirement age is 72. It is 72 if you log into whatever's left of SSA.gov. The retirement age is 72. There is no reason why our president is about to be an octogenarian, why hopefully he's getting good care. Mr. Jerry Connolly is 74. There's no reason. Even Bernie, who... Bernie has shown the complex nature of human nature in that his one Achilles heel is that he's having to tackle with his own Zionism. We're watching that live and play out, and that has been sad to see. I was like, oh, Bernie, I knew there was something, and this is your something.
I mean, I think there are plenty. First of all, no politician is infallible. I actually think there are plenty of critiques to give of AOC and Bernie. I think we can critique even the way they're going about this town hall. What is the point of the town hall? Where are they? What are they engaging with people? Where are they telling people to go from here? But the idea that we just completely dismiss and dispose of Bernie Sanders because he shouldn't be running for president. The man did an interview with the New York Times and told them he was too damn old.
Yeah, he's sensible. He's not about to run. I think because Bernie Sanders has at least a track record of understanding activism. Like, we can look, the man has lived this long. We can look and see that overwhelmingly he is down to do the right thing. It has been sad to see, like, oh damn, everybody's infallible and I knew it was something. I think he's slowly coming around to seeing how, unfortunately, Zionism is causing genocide. Zionism, that's what's currently going on. It has been very hard to watch. He needs to come around to it a lot faster. However, him and AOC going on this town hall and going on this tour and riling people up, people have to let go of their need, like, oh, one person is going to save us. It's the same thing like around Luigi Mania. People love to see Luigi because he's handsome and all these things, but people like the idea that one person can save them. AOC cannot save us. The DNC cannot save us. We need a new party. Bernie Sanders is an independent. He just caucuses with the Dems. He's not doing us a favor by being like, oh, guys, come on. I know I've been an independent all these years because I stand by my morals, but you back to the blue, get in line. Like, that's not something he needs to do. If anything, he should encourage AOC to be an independent too.
Isn't Bernie Jewish himself?
He is, which is why he's struggling with his Zionism. And he should really talk to the people over at, I think it's called JVP, Jewish Voices for Peace, the anti-Zionist Jewish group. They need to go, and I'm sure they've been trying to talk to him. I've seen them protest in his office all the time. He needs to really sit down and talk to them people. That's what he needs to do.
Yes. I think very, very salient critiques to make of Bernie Sanders. The whole let's not at all see this town hall as good because that man can't run for president. And then somebody, oh, that video, this video, okay, there's a black content creator. I don't dislike her, but I do disagree with her.
Mm.
And it's maybe I do take a little bit more offense. I don't know. Offense is not a good word. Maybe I am more likely to to engage in debate with people who I feel like I have a closer line in politics to than people who I patently disagree with. Like people that I patently just like we have a gulf between our politics. I don't want to engage with, and I'm trying to
Yeah,
like
true.
you be like, hey guys, I'm not being antagonistic. I just disagree. Can we talk about it? And TikTok is not the space to talk about it. But I saw this video, and she was saying, you know, look at y'all being happy about Bernie Sanders, but you got to remember he can't do nothing because black people don't fuck with Bernie Sanders. And I'm like, when has the black electorate been a monolith? And yes, Bernie ran in 2016. Did he run in 2020? He primaried in 2020, yeah?
Oh, I don't
I don't
remember if he won.
remember. I will almost
I don't
tell you,
remember. I
maybe
think
like
his big one was 2016, and then
2016.
they were like Hillary, and I was like, I think that man would have got more votes, but okay. I don't remember if he ran again in 2020.
You know, I am one of them people that was looking at Clyburn, state senator or the House representatives from South Carolina that kind of ushered.
Oh, he did. According to Asian Hero, he did run again in 2020.
Yeah,
Also, oh, to correct one thing, sorry. The retirement age in this country is technically 65, but if you want your full Social Security benefits, it's 72. So, or not full, you're extended. It's 65, 67, 72 if you log into ssa.gov. Sorry, to correct what I was saying.
yeah. I think in 2020 particularly, I was, and maybe this is the gulf between me and a lot of middle class black folks politics. I was upset that Joe Biden won the primary.
Same. Because it didn't feel like a real primary, to be honest. I was
No,
like, I don't, how do you say this? It felt like, oh, this is our person. We're running our person through. And so we're going to put
and it
all of the
very much
guaranteed
felt
money
like we need
to
to put
Joe.
an older white man against Trump to win because older white this is not the time for identity politics because there was a bevy of women in the primary. Elizabeth Warren was there, Kamala Harris,
Mhm.
Amy Klobuchar, and did I say the lady's name wrong?
No, you did. I was like, is that when Tulsi Gabbard was there, who's now turned into a huge Trump
Yeah,
supporter?
Tulsi Gabbard was there,
Yeah.
Buttigieg. Like
Hmm.
you know, it was a very and I kind of wanted like just a longer primary season where we really got to like engage with the candidates, and it felt like
Hmm.
you know Jim Clyburn of South Carolina kind of said, "I'm going to put my power behind you, get the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, and." Like whatever they did to have like the South Carolina primary matter so much, it just felt
Hmm.
like why do y'all get to decide like what is we like
Yeah.
I feel like people were like forced to drop out of the primary very early on, so it's just interesting. And I do think holistically when we look back at Joe Biden's presidency, we will not look at Joe Biden back at him as like a bad president. I think he'll have more of a lens similar to Jimmy Carter where he made some grave decisions that did not set us up. You know, we got Ronald Reagan after Carter. We getting Trump. I mean, quite different, but kind of. But you know, there's you see.
I think they're gonna look at my personal feeling is I will look at Joe like how I look at George, which is very negatively. But I think an entire generation of millennials at least will look back at Joe negatively. Because actually I don't know how I forgot that. Bernie Sanders did run in 2020. Now that I'm fully remembering everything, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren together, they ran on student loan cancellation. And they were the only reason why Joseph decided to implement any type of fake promise because he didn't follow through with it.
I
Any type of promise. That's the reason why. Because at first he said no multiple times. He's like no, no, no. And when they pushed both Warren and Sanders out, he then had to adopt like, okay, fine, this is my promise. We will try to give you 20K. And Chuck Schumer was pushing for 50K along with Warren. And he's now decided there he's going to support Democrat instead.
yeah, and then
Which is
like you. I also like the segregation Joe comment from Kamala Harris. I wanted a
Yes.
fuller, you know what I mean? I like the shit was kind of fun. Like let's price it out a little
Because
because
he's wildly problematic. Like he's tried to rebrand as like, see, I was a lifeguard in a black neighborhood. And I was like, it's giving surveillance, Joseph. It's not, it wasn't giving you wanted to, learn and be kind to your black neighbors in Delaware. It was giving you wanted to be a surveillance at 17 years old. It was very interesting. His run actually was a lot messier than, because so much stuff has gone on now than I initially remembered.
But I do think in the history books, when it comes to the policies and the things that he did during his administration, there will be a kinder lens placed on him. And I'm just speaking to, I was kind of surprised to see that there really is a group of black middle class women, well, black middle class folks, like this brand of black middle class content creator who is very pro Joe Biden. Because this person who did a video talking about black people don't fuck with Bernie Sanders, I scrolled back to their previous video and they were like, yeah, Joe Biden said he's going to get back into, like, I don't know, he's going to come back out. I don't know what that means or implies. Like, what is Joe Biden getting ready to do? But they were like very excited. And then someone in the comments said, I will never forgive y'all for the way y'all treated Biden after the debates. And she's like, exactly. And I'm like,
Joe, who said you're not, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. That Joe?
Do we remember?
We all heard horrible, the same thing?
Like there's no denying. There's no denying, as I said time and time again, Joe Biden, his one of his biggest mistakes is not engaging with the media. Joe Biden had the least amount of media access in interviews of any president historically, because he was hiding his age-related decline. And that debate put him on Front Street. And y'all, black women are on the internet talking about you'll never forgive people for the way they treated him. He should have never.
I didn't know there was a cohort of us caping for Joe. My flapper is gassed.
And I'm like, I feel like we need to talk about this, but like you can't have this discourse on TikTok. There is no talking about it because it just becomes an antagonistic argument. But like I want to pull homegirl to the side and be like, no, seriously, can we have a conversation about this? Because what the fuck?
What? I need to, okay, so I'm trying to formulate, because there is somebody who is a mutual online of mine, and that I think the world of, very friendly, who is an avid supporter of Joseph and went to a White House event. I saw, and I was like, girl, what you doing over there? Like, why are you at Genocide Joseph's house?
Are they a lawyer?
No, they're not a lawyer. And actually, if I was just to make a guess, because I didn't know, I thought it was just a one-off, and I was like, I'm just gonna ignore that you post these things because I don't know where it's coming from. Joseph and his administration, and I always say this, sorry, sir, I think it's Cardozo, was the former Secretary of Education. Mm-hmm. What they did is in the late aughts, maybe like 2006, 2007, is when we get PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. George Bush was a fool. It never ran. Nobody got their loans forgiven. And then because Joseph ran on a campaign promise of student debt cancellation that he didn't actually believe in, instead of doing that, what he did do is he fixed the bureaucracy and he fixed the paperwork behind PSLF. So PSLF had a 1% debt forgiveness rate. Under PSLF, if you work for any nonprofit, ignore what Trump just said. If you work for any nonprofit legally, and you work for a government, that's state, federal, local, etc., after 10 years, you're supposed to get all of your loans forgiven. 300,000, 50 grand, whatever the number is. Up until even under Obama, only 1% of people were getting their loans forgiven, even though they had worked for the government 12, 15, 17 years. Under the Biden administration, all they did was fix the bureaucracy of like, oh, sorry, we weren't actually counting your 10 years of payment. That's our bad. We'll fix that. And so under him, a lot of, I'm assuming, the black middle class.
No, because a lot of my homegirls got their loans forgiven.
Listen, you forgive my loan, I might have a different tune.
You know, but like...
That might be a little nicer, just a smidge.
But you know what? I understand looking back at Joe Biden kindly, which is what I'm saying. I do think I can acknowledge historically, when we retell the history of Joe Biden's administration, I do not think the critiques that as hard as we critique and even further, plenty of people critique him even further, are going to be the critiques that make it into the history book so much. Like, I don't think that changes the color of what he did do administratively during his presidency. And I understand people liking what he did. I do not understand looking at that decrepit 80-something-year-old man.
We'll call Jackie Robinson the Great Negro.
You know what I mean?
That man
Like,
thinks
come
in
on.
1961.
Like, even when he's trying to, you know, his re-election campaign. I think you can like somebody politically and still acknowledge that there are other things that are leading you to say that they should not be running for re-election. Like, I get getting your loans forgiven, you know. Yeah, I get it.
I get it. Like, because I've been paying mine for 5 years. You already know this. Julesy knows this. I've given those people $200,000 in 5 years. It is my biggest anxiety inducer in my life is these mother effing loans. I can understand and see how if you got your loans forgiven and you've been fighting. The person I know who got their loans forgiven, they've been a federal employee for 15 years. Their loan should have got forgiven 5 years ago. So I understand if like this, you know, Joseph's popping up like, I fixed your paperwork for you. I could see how you might be a little bit kind, but I would have taken my student loan forgiveness and been like, yeah, you owe that to me. Bye. I won't talk bad about you, but I'm not going to say anything good about you either. Actually, I'm still going to talk bad about you, but like,
and this love for Joe Biden is what is undergirding these takes about what the fuck is Bernie Sanders doing a town hall for. Like, I don't know. You know, like, if the man sits on the internet and goes on Joe Rogan and critiques the Democrats, it's at the New York Times talking about the Democrats have lost their base, and he is taking a younger politician who the establishment is not fucking with, but has a huge amount of brand visibility. Like,
and viability.
Why would I just not let that cook?
Stuff, but she's very viable.
Let it cook. Like, just let it cook at least. That's what I don't understand.
Them being mad about that is interesting. It's almost as if they view Bernie to be like the arch nemesis to Joseph, when the arch nemesis to Joseph is Trump. Like, well, what are we doing? Wow.
Anyhow, we've veered off, so let's finally get into these lawyers. You know what I mean? We've talked about so many things. Well, let's actually get into the administrative warfare that Trump is enacting, starting with the law firms. And as Stephanie is our resident lawyer who is returning to law. Go ahead, take the mic.
Living in a society that doesn't value education and then doesn't have affordable health care is just so dismal. It's so dismal. This is from the New York Times. Law firm bends in face of Trump demand. So we already did a big law primer at the beginning of this. Paul Weiss is one of the most noted firms in the big law cohort of the top 100 firms in the country. Very prestigious, very wealthy, all this money. Essentially, when Trump was being prosecuted, one of their lawyers was a prosecutor prosecuting Trump for his crimes. However, one of the interesting things, they are one of Paul Weiss's former partners. Trump issued an executive order against the firm. The firm has now decided, instead of fighting this and fighting with Trump, they will now provide the Trump administration $40 million worth of pro bono work. $40 million is a significant amount of legal services. For context, a lot of, I think, first-year associates bill anywhere from at $400 an hour. So is what you bill the client. I think it's about that. And then partners start at like the $1,000 to, depending on if you're like in trust and estates, they might be charging you $2,000 an hour, a ridiculous amount of money. $40 million. I think what Trump is trying to do is, these are cheapos and these are thieves and scammers, the Trump administration, as we have seen. They're trying to get free legal services so that way they can paper their dictatorship. This entire rigmarole that the fake illegal department of DOJ is doing there's been individual pushback from government employees, of course, but we have no enforcing apparatus that is standing behind the government employees or standing behind the people to actually say, hey, the judge ruled this is illegal. You cannot do this. Without any type of enforcing apparatus, they're continuing to do these things. One of the things that dictatorship does, and to Julesy's point about administrative warfare is extremely dangerous because Legality has nothing to do with morality. It's just about whether or not you have the paperwork signed into law. There have been atrocious laws that are legal. For example, slavery was a legal institution upheld in this country. It's completely immoral. It's heinous. It's one of the worst acts against humanity and human rights that this world has ever seen. Completely legal. That is what he's doing. He's getting free legal services by using quid pro quo and threatening a law firm to give him free legal services. And that is wild. I'm not surprised that the law firm is doing it. What I am surprised is the way that it's being reported is like, oh my gosh, he's just doing this to punish them, instead of like showing the long view of like, he's doing this so he can get more. They're firing all the government workers. So in firing all the government workers, who is going to be writing all of this administrative law into law? He needs free labor, and he's getting free labor from some of the top, best, and brightest lawyers in this country. And that to me, I think is the most wild, on top of we are now normalizing quid pro quo in a
This
way
is
that has.
crazy. The firm, Mr. Trump said, also agreed to conduct an audit to ensure its hiring practices are merit based and will not adopt, use, or pursue any DEI policy.
Let me pull this up for you, because I want people to see how abysmal the demographics in Big Law are when we're talking about race and gender. Current demographics of Big Law firms.
And like
Because
even these
this does
headlines
not
are
exist.
these headlines are such soft blows, like law firm bends in face of Trump demands. That's not what's happening. This man sought retribution and got it with ease from one of the top law. Now, you know, as you were explaining, the legalese of like really bad laws can be enacted that these institutions enact. But like, yeah, I guess I'm not surprised that they are like, we're gonna save our bottom line. Politically, I think some of them probably align with Trump.
Probably do.
Paul Weiss just got in trouble because one of their associates worked on the case against Trump, and that's why Trump went after them. But to allow such like mafia, are we going back to the mafia?
Big mafia.
This is very mafioso of Trump. Like, why would a law firm put themselves in that position? But also,
them hiding this is very wild. Like the fact that it's taking me this long to find these exact numbers.
There's no ethics.
There's none. Okay, I have the exact numbers from Paul Weiss. I'm going to send this to you right now. This is from the NAACP, so you can put this on the screen to how ridiculous this is. Here, I just put it in there. So this is from Paul Weiss, a law firm, that he's saying, oh, by the way, also, you need to ensure that there are no DEI, which is a euphemism for Black. You're not letting in overly qualified Black people. So if you scroll a little bit, so in terms of partner members, there are, at Paul Weiss's from 2017, there were 2 Black partners that were men, 1 Black woman partner in all of Paul Weiss. Uno. I actually know who that is. 1. If we're looking at number of associates, for Black associates, there were 17 Black men at Paul Weiss as associates, 14 Black women. They are barely hitting a percentage point. It doesn't exist. These
Look
places
at this.
are
Persons
so
with disability 000 across the board. Openly gay 5 men, 3 women.
For the partners, and then for associates, 27 men, 5 women. Lesbians are discriminated against so much in these spaces. And then if you look at the intersectional of it, if you have a Black lesbian woman,
not making it. They'd have to hide it.
And the Hispanic/Latino numbers even more abysmal. 0 women partners that are Latina, only 1 Hispanic male partner. Of the associates across all genders, only 12 Hispanic associates in all of Paul Weiss. The DEI is where? It's in the white men that are getting affirmative action that work at Paul Weiss because their daddy worked at Paul Weiss, because they got into Harvard Law, because they're legacy admission. George Bush was notoriously a C student who gave a speech I'll never forget, because my dad was like, oh, this is like, to him, it would have been like if somebody had got on stage and let's called us all the N-word. George Bush gave a speech when I think I was like in middle school. I was in middle school. George just gave the what do you call like the ceremony speech when you're in college? I forget what it's called. The commencement. He gave the commencement speech at some school in Texas where he said, "I'm not talking to the A students. I'm talking to the C students. You too can be the president of this here United States." And my dad lost his mind. He was like, "What do you? This man is dunce. Like, what are you talking about?" And he looked at me and he was like, "That's for rich white men. That's not for you. You need to do your work." And I'm like, "Oh, I've done my work. And what did I get for it? $300,000 of debt." But anyways, I'm off my little angry soapbox.
You know, Fran is in the comments saying, and seeing these stats and seeing Black people advocate for segregation is wild. I think the segregation discourse that is happening online is a byproduct of how boomers. This is what I left in Jamel Bowie's comment on.
And I agree because
I have a dad who was born in 1952, Florida, Polk County, Lake Alfred, Florida is where my daddy is from.
Polk County.
Okay, and he
very rural.
And my dad my dad is one of 13. He's number 5 or 6. He has his sister who is directly older than him, Brenda, passed away from pneumonia because the white hospital would not take her in. And there was no other hospital in the area that they could get her to. So he has that memory of like what segregation means. But he also has the memory of going to an all-Black school and having lunch ladies that really cared about him and having food that reminded him of home and like the sort of politic of care that existed when he went to an all-Black school for early elementary. And then I guess he was like in 5th or 6th grade where he did not have a choice. He was bussed across town to integrate a school.
And that is a very violent experience. And if you talk to any Black person born before 1960, they will tell you that. They will tell you how awful they were treated when they were forced to do integration.
And then Kamala Harris might not
remember, but they no choice.
So the thing that's distinctive about Kamala Harris and the NPR Code Switch podcast did an episode about her on this is that she's at the very end of the boomer generation. You could technically make an argument that she is Gen X.
She's a Gen X, yeah.
But she is like, because when she's born, the first generation to go through a post-segregated United States and really feed into this belief that if you follow the rules, you should succeed in the United States. And that's why you get this particular sort of third way politic, neoliberal Kamala Harris, who is very invested in this idea of work and striving, being the
Black excellence.
Yes. But for my dad has a lot of resentment that he did not get to choose. The choice was made for him. It's not even that he's against integration so much as he didn't like being the child sacrifice to make integration possible. And there's also episode on This American Life, the podcast with Samir Zapata from the SNL. Am I messing up her name?
What? I'm not familiar. I will let you look.
Oh man, I don't know what I'm talking about. There's a Black woman comedian.
While you look it up, to second that, all of my friends, all of their parents were forced into forced integration in school, and all of them have the same opinion of like, this was extremely violent. These white teachers did not care about me. Some of them, unfortunately, the teacher made it so far the teacher would bully them. When I was in the 9th grade, our librarian, who I loved, she had this older Black man, this is 9th grade in Miami, come in and speak. And he talked about when he was forced to do integration. He specifically said he didn't give a damn. He was like, that's the worst thing ever happened to me my entire life. And I remember the librarian made a face, and then she kind of was like, yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Nobody was talking about how violent it was.
Sashir Zamata, who is she was a Black woman comedian that was on SNL. She had I think she had a Netflix or HBO special at the time. She's actually very funny. I liked her work. She had an episode on This American Life with her mom, talking about her mom's feelings about being one of those children who was forced to integrate a school. And it resonated so much with how I've heard my dad
Mhm.
talk about his own experience. And so I bring all that up to say that I do think part of the rose colored lens that a particular brand of like black person on the internet has about segregation being good and fuck it, I don't want to be around white people anyway, is, and you know, really rooted in how boomers and our elder generation talked about what integration cost them. Because on the education front, there is also, I listen to a lot of podcasts on this. Oh my gosh.
Bring up the Title I schools. How
Oh
much
my
is
gosh.
changed?
So the New York Times has a whole podcast on Title I schools, but also there was a podcast episode that I listened to that talked about how black teachers lost out in Brown versus Board of Education.
They got fired. No
Yes.
pension, no money, just
Yes.
wiped out an entire generations of people's way to not only help their community to make a living. There are, and I think this is why like I can't deal with TikTok. My blood pressure can't accommodate TikTok, because there is actually like a real conversation to be had. And I was glad that you commented on Jamel Bouie's standpoint, because his point, which is a valid point of like, hey, y'all do know that in segregation, we were outside the law as black people. We didn't have any rights. We had our land stolen from us willy-nilly. We are getting violence is occurring, etc. Integration has denormalized violence in an external way. However, 4 out of the 5 things he stated still occur to black people. They just don't occur openly to middle-class black people.
And
They occur to rural and poor black people in urban areas as well, astronomically. But middle-class black people, you know, you got your little PSLF and now you don't care. So I think there is a interracial community conversation to have on, hey, is giving classes an egregious? Because why are we not having a full conversation? Like, so what if 10% of us get to go work at Paul Weiss? Not even 10%, 1% of us get to go work at Paul Weiss. What happened to 99% of black people?
But this is where Foucault says in Discipline and Power, where he makes the argument about like the spectacle of violence and what that does to us. But when that violence becomes hidden, it's almost like he makes the argument, bring back the gulag, because like when you was pewing people and it could be visually seen, you understood a bit more about the violence that had to be enacted in order to fulfill this punishment. But when it becomes like lethal injection and it's hidden and only a few people see it, like there's too much space between you and your understanding of the violence it takes to enact this punishment. And I think that's what happens when the violence doesn't go away. The violence transforms and becomes more subversive. But I do think there is I think there's a graceful way that I particularly, maybe I should have this conversation, maybe I will post it to TikTok, that I would like to engage. Man,
TikTok.
I'm currently shadow banned, but you know, like that. I think there are roots to why this conversation has so much legs, because like when I lived in Brooklyn, there was like an African American charter school that was started, and a lot of people were sending their kids after like
this charter middle school
as a radical like move to send their kids to an all black school, you know, that had like a more, and like these are black educated middle class folks. It's not the Hebrew Israelites that are like sending their kids to, it had like some Swahili like Kwanzaa name to the school or whatever. Because they wanted their kids to have access to black teachers. I do feel like that is like this, I think it's like an education thing, specifically about like the school system and what was lost with that, especially in the call that we need more black male teachers, or we need more black teachers in general, whatever, that is what people are thinking about mostly when it comes to segregation supposedly being a good thing.
It's a conversation that I really hope that we have, because however we feel about it, clearly, and for context, this, because I don't think we said it, this kicked off because the current illegal administration that is implementing all these illegal things, they're testing the waters of who's going to check me. That's what they're trying to do. They put out an executive order saying they will not require government workers to enforce integrated and non-discriminatory practices, aka, hey, you're a government contractor and you run the train station, you can segregate the train station if you want, essentially is what the executive order is stating. Whether or not people are going to try it, will be fascinating to see, and that's what's kicking off this conversation. With the charter schools, it's so interesting because my dad sent me for middle school to a charter school because my homeschool in Miami, unfortunately, a child got murdered, well, very infamously, and it was extremely sad. When the parents are sending their kids to an all black charter school or any charter school in general, they're sending their kids there as a response to the fact that the public school is defunded or something is not working. And the parents themselves are overwhelmingly not taught, like, hey, if you push the school system, you paid your taxes, you paid your property tax, or the neighbor has to pay the property tax, somebody has paid the damn property tax, you deserve for your kids to have this environment for free. And I think that part is always lost, which is why school vouchers are super dangerous. And a lot of these Title I schools, overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic Title I schools, Teach for America, in my opinion, is one of the worst organizations to exist. That's
That
my spicy
create
take.
and so many black middle class people come through. Teach for
Teach for
America.
America put
Them
22
PSLF
year olds
people
with no
all did Teach
background.
for America.
They love a Teach for America, and they put 22-year-olds with no back. You don't have to have an education degree, so you didn't take 4 years. You went to school for biology, and you're like, oh, I don't actually know if I want to go to medical school yet. You can do TFA. You don't have to have any educational background. They put you into a Title I school that lacks funding. Now you're in an overcrowded classroom with students who deserve somebody who knows what they're doing and also has the empathy to understand the home situation. And there are multiple people in my family that have done Teach for America, and a few of them have stayed 15 years in the Title I school. They're few and far between. Most people use Teach for America as a way to be like, see, look, I'm Hillary Swank. I helped the poor little brown babies, and I went off to law school. Peace and love. It's foolishness. So I think there are a lot of ways to have the conversation. I am personally, if I have kids, I would want them to go to a predominantly Black school, because the level of psychological violence instituted against Black children in predominantly white spaces is very well documented.
Yes.
I will happily rally and buy the books for the school, buy all the kids a computer, whatever have you I can afford to do, but sending your Black child into a predominantly white space at a young age for them to navigate that it's rough. Having personally been the only Black person in multiple of my law school classes. At that point, I'm 22 and I'm still like, oh, why am I alone?
At Brooklyn Law?
At Brooklyn Law, multiple classes.
That's crazy.
Multiple classes.
Let's get into Columbia University shenanigans. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. With an endowment as big as Columbia, you got over 400 million with
Let
Trump.
me look up their endowment for us. It's multiple billions with a B. I want to know what is the purpose of the endowments besides excuse my language, dick measuring contest. Because why are they not using the endowments to actually help the students? Columbia University endowment. Their endowment is currently listed at, according to the school, why are they showing 2024 fiscal year? The endowment was $14.8 billion, produced a return of 11.5%. It's healthy and wealthy, their endowment. They have agreed to Trump's demands because they want $400 million of funding. For context, $400 million out of their 15, what was the number? Sorry, I forgot already. $14.8 billion. They have enough money to cover this and ignore Trump. And not that I expect much from Columbia University, since they have literally been terrorizing their own student population for protesting against genocide, which is objectively wild. This I'm disappointed in, because what is the purpose of higher education if higher education isn't going to at least fight for educational freedom? Higher education is not a bastion of leftism. It never has been. But higher education has. Academia, for the most part, their spine stood in, well, we're here for the rigor. We're here for the knowledge. We're here for all these things. They're here for nothing. I hope the parents that can disenroll their kids. Columbia University costs more than $60,000.
But they're taking away degrees. You can't even do that.
They are kidnapping people. They kidnapped their one student.
You have all that money, and 400 million got you banning masks on campus because pro-Palestinian protesters used masks. That's a crazy jump. That's a crazy
Wild
jump.
jump.
Then they are changing the heads of departments for Middle Eastern, Africana, and one other studies program. Does this even get into it?
I think it does. Scroll up a little bit. I think it was right there. Do, 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 do. A little bit down. A change. Okay, here. A change that will impact academics at Columbia is the shift in its Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African Studies department. A new official will now lead that department. So we're gonna get a new blonde person to tell us what. What exactly is about to happen? I just It should be noted that what Trump was trying to do, extort them for $400 million, was illegal. So there was a basis for the school, the actual administration, to fight back, and they have said, no, screw them kids, screw these professors who have dedicated their life to these kids, screw all y'all, actually. This is what we're doing.
Well,
It sets a very dangerous precedent.
we're an hour 10 in.
Oh, we're over.
We are. Do you want to? We can. I think we can save Department of Education for Thursday.
We can, because that, I'm sure there'll be updates.
Yeah, I think something is going to happen between now and then, and maybe there's more to say because right now we just have an executive order where he's shifting core functioning of the Department of Education under other government agencies, and other than the general concern because who's leading those government agencies?
There's
I
also like sending the debtors. I have to laugh because what else can I do right now? Sending the debtors, which is probably so many of us watching the live stream, including the both of us, the student loan debtors from the Department of Education to the Small Business Administration.
I called
It's
Mohila
comical.
and it was a 5 hour wait. I didn't even get anybody on the phone. I just said, I'm fucking, I'm gonna email you bitches. And I haven't, they are deeply, the loan people are deeply understaffed. Like they cutting their staff? What is going on?
They already did during the pandemic. They all of
Reduce
the
their
student loan service
staff?
providers have their staff because they weren't collecting debts, so they let them go. So a lot of them, and I would like, and I'm saying this as a point of once you get them on the phone, use the bureaucracy and the lack of staff to your benefit. So for example, if you're on the SAVE plan, I'm on the SAVE plan. Everybody on the SAVE plan because Trump and all the Republican cronies have been suing against the SAVE plan. One good thing Joseph did. Okay, fine, I'll give this one to him. The SAVE plan has been in forbearance all this time. That means it's not accruing more interest. I'm currently still on forbearance. It says because there are, I think, 4 million people on the SAVE plan, Trump has already, I forgot which article I was reading it from, the current Department of Education, whatever's left of it, Linda McMahon has already stated, if you're on a SAVE plan, we're not coming after you till September or December because it's too many people for them to round up to get the payment from. So don't worry about it. The best thing you can do is finally get those people on the phone, negotiate a lower rate, and then let them institute a lower rate and let your loan fall into bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is saving me money, but you have to get them on the phone the first time.
Yeah, I sent the email, but like I sent that email on Thursday. Shouldn't I have gotten a response by now?
Yeah. You might have to call them again and just sit on the phone.
Oh, what?
Just in the background.
For I
It's
was
there. That's wild. Everybody I know is calling because people's payments have erroneously, is trying illegally, keyword is illegal, illegally trying to get rid of income-based repayment. So it's inflating everyone's student loans. I know people are afraid of their loans, but please go log in and see how much you owe and then call and negotiate your monthly payment. Do not let them people take you to collections. It's going to create headache for yourself.
oh,
Call them back.
I'm enrolled in. I just need Mohilia to update the fact that I'm enrolled in school, bitch. Why are you telling me I'm late? Late for what?
Yeah, call them and make them retroactively fix it too. Because the people once, sans Sally Mae is the only student loan service provider I've had where the people that work at Sally Mae, heaven is never finding you. They're very mean. All the other student loan service providers I've had, the people like they feel bad. They work there and they're like, girl, I'm sorry. And they're like very kind. They will figure it out with you. But the Sally Mae employees, They act like they work at McDonald's.
I
Like
sent a message
they
on the
own the phone.
20th. I'm just gonna let it. I'm not calling. I'm not. The IRS ain't answering the phone. They telling.
Does
They
anybody
saying
even work there anymore?
I own it, baby. I'm about to stop paying the debt. Like fuck y'all hoes. Somebody hack. If Musk really gets a hold of that, hack that bitch. Hack it and get rid of my tax debt. Do something meaningful. I always talk about the hacking. Okay. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all
A
for
hacker
tuning
will
in.
find us eventually. We're on Twitch. A white, and then it will be us, and then this as evidence. Exhibit 1, these two soliciting hackers. Yes, please call Nelnet. I'm sorry to tell y'all on a good Monday to call your student loan service provider, but for your own benefit, just call them and don't let those people all of a sudden have you paying $2,000-$3,000 if that's not in your budget to pay it. There are workarounds. They'll work with you. They'll put you on a payment plan, but do not let Elon Musk, who does not pay taxes, now all of a sudden be messing up your personal budget.
I feel you. All right. Thank y'all for joining today. I hope this was a key. I hope this was fun. Tell your friend, tell your homie, tell your mama, daddy, sister, cousin to come subscribe to Politics Popped on YouTube and Twitch.
Yes. And I'll sing happy birthday to you now because your birthday's tomorrow. I'm sorry, my pitch is not great, so just accept that. Move yourselves back.
You have so much more confidence than
happy birthday to ya. I was like, I'm gonna sing over you because you're not gonna let me do it. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya.
Happy birthday. Yes, today's the last day of my 30s. I'm going to have a drink to that. Woo! After Zumba, I'm going to go have a cocktail.
40 and fine. That's what you're going to do tomorrow. 40 and fine.
I'm going to go have some oysters and a cocktail.
2 cocktails.
1.
Oh, okay.
That's 1. I went to Chili's on Saturday and had a cocktail, and I'm going to drink tomorrow, and I'm going to drink on Wednesday, so just 1.
Okay, 1.
All right. Thank y'all. Have a good day. Deuces.
Have a good